morning everyone, and welcome back to our CNC turning technique channel. We're in the final stages of this nice tutorial done on the whiteboard. Today we're going to start by looking at what head milling is. Normally we're used to seeing our piece according to the X and Z axis. You know that. By now we've understood that when using powered tools we need to introduce a third axis. This axis is the C axis, but today we're going to read it at the top of the piece. So it won't be an angular dimension anymore, but a linear dimension. What does that mean? So normally we see our piece like this, and this is the axis of rotation of the piece. Now our point of view won't be this anymore, but it will be this. So we need to look at our piece this way. Okay, things are going to change. I can't use the Z-axis because the Z-axis goes directly towards the tailstock. I can use the X-axis, and I need to enter the C-axis as a linear dimension. So we want to get a nice picture. We should work along 3 axes. The Z-axis will determine the depth of our setup. So this measurement will be Z, okay, and the C-axis and the X-axis are great. And my drawings, which as always look a bit rough. Let's try to summarize with a little diagram. So from our lathe, the Z-axis will always go from the self-centering chuck towards the tailstock. From the outermost machine face of the piece, the X-axis will start, which as always is a diameter perpendicular to both the X-axis and the Z-axis. The C-axis will pass through, which is not a diameter but a linear dimension forming a work plane on which only X and C will rest, while Z will intersect it perpendicularly at point 0, the point where X and C cross. Okay. So let's assume we need to mill a face of a pestle in the USA. A nice picture without having to worry about how much the starting diameter is. The diameter of the picture will have a side of 100. I wanted to give you the example with the hexagon because everyone wants the hexagon, but basically it's the same thing. It's about identifying the 4 points of the vertices. I didn't want to simplify my life. I simply wanted to do something different from what you find in the manual. In the Fanuc manual you find the hexagon, but in all the manuals you find the turret of the hexagon. Face with tailstock, chuck, workpiece in front, round shape shows X-axis for diameters. In short, we position our face with the tailstock here, the self-centering chuck here, and our workpiece in front of us. So we will see a round shape. This is our round shape, and this way we know perfectly that the X-axis runs through it, which determines the diameters. In this case, we actually don't see the Z-axis. So the C-axis passes through. This is our square. And we know that the side is 100. So when we go to point 1, as you can see, X will be equal to the diameter that we will read on the X-axis. So X will be a diameter of 100, while C is not a diameter. C is a measurement of 50. Let's remember that we have x plus, c plus, in this quadrant, x plus, c minus, in this quadrant, x minus, c minus, in this other quadrant, and x minus, c plus, in this quadrant. So, let's write it down here and take note of it. Point 1. Actually, here we write x. Parameter 1 is multiplied by 100, resulting in a significant increase in its value, and it has a constant value of 50. Parameter 2 is also multiplied by 100, which similarly increases its value, but it has a constant value of negative 50, indicating a decrease. Parameter 3 is multiplied by negative 100, which decreases its value significantly, and it has a constant value of negative 50, further reducing it. Lastly, parameter 4 is multiplied by negative 100, decreasing its value, and it has a constant value of 50, which slightly offsets the decrease. Once you get the hang of it, you'll see that it's quite easy to see that often the figures are, let's say, perfectly symmetrical. Not always. So, normally with hexagons, when you have 3 dimensions, you have all 6. We go through these points in this order. So how does the machine know that we are starting to think in relation to what we are used to working with? How does it know that C is no longer an angular measurement, but a simple linear measurement, thanks to the insertion of a G code, that is G112, which can also be G1.12 or 11.2. Some people use it that way. But G112 tells the machine, look, we are working with polar coordinates related to the workpiece. So when we start to create a program like this, as always, with M35, we enable the motors, and as always, we call a turret. Let's say this is a 6-meter diameter end mill. As always, as you are aware, we set a fixed speed. So it's S500 M3 P12. Remember that P12 makes the end mill rotate and not the spindle. Then we swiftly and efficiently move to G0, Z2, because obviously we need to mill a square, so we move there. We need to mill a square, so let's move there. Here, X110. So, higher than the frame that we need to mill, we enter. If we want to work in millimeters per minute, the G94. And this is the moment to enter, in a separate block, without any other code, the G112. Now, the machine knows it has to work according to the Cartesian coordinate system, where X represents the diameters, and C represents the radii. OK. In front of head end of the piece. Well, we calculated the points by working counterclockwise. When working counterclockwise, in a counterclockwise manner, the same rule applies as for tool radius compensation, meaning that while moving around the piece in a counterclockwise direction, as previously mentioned, I will correct my radius using G42. G42 should be entered along with, before G42, I apologize, it's better to position yourself in G1 at Z8, which is the depth of our frame at a safety X position. Since the mill has a diameter of 6, I've set it to 110 here, but let's say 115 to be more than C60, so we're being generous and staying away from the piece. Now it's time to enter G42. It could have been entered earlier, but it's always better to give a certain position before calling for the tool radius compensation. Now we go to G1, which is already set at 0.1, so X. If we don't set at least F100 here, the machine will give me an alarm. X100, C50, we will position our mill at 0.1. So our mill will go here. This will align. In this particular scenario, it is important to note that for the purpose of clarity, in this specific context, as a precautionary measure, to ensure accuracy, in this instance, as a result of this, in order to achieve the desired outcome, as a general rule, in this case, as a standard practice, in this situation, as an additional step, in this example, as a further explanation, in this particular case, as a supplementary note. The milling machine takes care of it, and G42 positions the milling tool at the correct point. It's simply entering the various points, 100C50, no need to repeat the X, X100C50, minus 100C50, return to point 1, X100C50, Z10, G40, G112, exclude it, like G113, which is a standalone block. Stop spindle. As we made a square, make a hexagon, triangle, add a radius R10, R10 to round 2 edges, 3 edges, 4 edges as needed. If we need to round the 4th edge, return over one side or it won't round the 4th edge. Sometimes a comma is needed. Older lathes may need G2, so use I, K or G2 for start end of radius and R depending on CNC. Then we'll stop the spindle and everything else. It's obvious that just as we made a square, we can make a hexagon, we can make a triangle, and we can also add a radius, R10, R10, to round off 2 edges, 3 edges, 4 edges, whatever we want. Okay? Obviously, if we need to round the 4th edge, we have to go back over one side, otherwise it won't round the 4th edge. Sometimes you need a comma, sometimes you don't, but it can be done. On older lathes, it might be necessary to use G2, so don't take it as a radius but as a section of a circle and indicate either I or K or G2 for the start point of the radius, G2 for the end point of the radius, and R depending on the CNC you are working with. You understand that fundamentally it's just about doing what we've done so far, looking at the piece from a new perspective. It's nothing difficult. It starts to get a bit annoying when... So first of all, if I have a large diameter and a hexagon to make in the middle, I won't go and hollow everything out with a milling cutter. You see, it's basically just doing what we've been doing so far, and simply just looking at the piece from a new perspective. It's nothing difficult. It starts to get a little annoying when in the process of machining, when dealing with a situation where the workpiece has a significantly large diameter and there is a need to create a hexagonal shape precisely in the center of the material, I will not choose to remove all the material from the center using a milling cutter, as it is not the most efficient method. The square is here, or when there are two squares, it doesn't become too annoying to program the 4 points that are basically given to us by the designer, but going to empty the workpiece piece by piece, our entire cylinder. That's why I recommend you check out my tutorial, fully dedicated to the manual guide, where it's very simple to empty the workpiece with a pre-established cycle in the manual guide. Because to program this, You can also create a subprogram and then shift the origin, but first you need to clean the workpiece. And that's the slightly more annoying part of milling. Millers aren't as fortunate as turners with macro roughing cycles. I misspoke about mills lacking macro instruction cycles. With lathes having ASC, you can't just provide two profiles and expect a macro to handle everything. Lathes like Siemens's ShopTurn, Mazda's Troll, or Fanuc's manual guide vary in ease of use due to integrated CAD/CAM systems, simplifying programming. I hope this was interesting. The goal is key. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like if you enjoyed it. If not, feel free to ignore. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. That's why with lathes that have ASC, like the ShopTurn at Siemens, the Mazda Troll at Mazda, or the manual guide at Fanuc, some are luckier than others because some are easier to use than others. They all have those nice integrated CAD/CAM systems that save you from having to do all the point-to-point programming for emptying the workpiece at the head. Well, I hope I've shown you something interesting this time too. Those who follow me know perfectly well that I'm a good turner and a terrible miller. So, I apologize if I took maybe the less appropriate route, but the important thing is to achieve a goal. So, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. If you liked what you heard, give it a thumbs up. If not, as always, just ignore it. Thank you so much for being with me, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.